Hi. So today we are going to talk a little bit about testing for ketones. There's a lot of information out there. Some of it's somewhat confusing. So I'm just going to give you my take on testing for ketones. Should you test for them? When should you test for them? And more importantly, maybe, is how do you test for ketones? So there's three different ways that you can test for ketones because there's three different ketone bodies that you produce when you are in ketosis or when your body is using ketones. So you can produce acetate, beta hydroxybutyrate, or acetoacetate. So the acetate form of a ketone body is what is found in your breath. Acetoacetate is what is found in your urine, and beta hydroxybutyrate, or BHB, is what is found in your blood. So you can measure either way. Now, any of those ways. So many of you have seen or heard of, or are probably the one that most people are the most familiar with, is the urine strips. So you can get those in pretty much any drugstore. You can order them on Amazon, and this is going to measure your levels of acetate in your urine. Now, the only kind of issue that I have with this is that early on in your keto journey, you're not going to have a problem most of the time getting a reading from that once you do start producing ketones. And the reason for this is because you are going to spill those ketones in your urine because your body is not yet fat adapted. It doesn't know it's not that it doesn't know how. I mean, that's kind of what I usually say, and that's what you'll hear people say a lot. But it's really not that your body doesn't know how. Your body does know how. But there are there's these enzymatic processes that have to be in place for your body to be able to adequately and accurately switch from using glucose or sugar for fuel to being able to use ketones or fat for fuel. So during that time or during that switch, you're not going to be using all of these ketone bodies really effectively. So when we do that, when we're not able to do that, it's kind of like taking supplements that your body just isn't able to absorb or isn't able to use, and so then we say you have expensive pee. So that's kind of the same case with the urine strips. What you're catching basically on those is your body's inability to use some of those ketone bodies, and so that's what you pick up. So I don't really have a problem with people using those in the beginning, and actually I think it can be quite exciting in the beginning because this is a whole new thing and you want to test and make sure that you're in ketosis, and I totally understand that, and I think that that's fine. There's no problem with that. But so using those in the beginning can be good, but where people get tripped up is once you've become fat adapted, if you're still continuing to use those urine strips, you might become pretty disappointed and even think keto isn't working for you because you may no longer be excreting that acetate or that ketone body, and then you may assume that you are not in ketosis or that something went wrong and you're doing something wrong, when you very well may be in ketosis and you may be doing everything right, but you're just no longer spilling those extra ketone bodies. Okay, so let's move on to the next option that's out there, and that would be, let's just go with beta hydroxybutyrate. So that's the BHB, and that is the ketone body that is found in your serum, your blood. So if you have a blood meter that measures blood glucose and ketones, then you can very easily get these numbers. I personally like to use the Keto Mojo, and to be in full disclosure, I have recently become an affiliate with them. So they are a product that I love. I never recommend anything that I don't use myself to any of my listeners. So I have been using that product for about a year, really, really liked it. They reached out and asked if I wanted to be an affiliate, and I said, yeah, sure, I would love to, because I'm already recommending it to people, so why not? Let's do that. So just to be in full disclosure, I am an affiliate of them. However, I would recommend them anyway. That is the one that I use. So it is a blood glucose and ketone monitor. It's super easy to use. The testing strips are less expensive than many that are out there on the market, so I really like that. And so you can get that online. You can order it at the bestketonetest.com, I believe. And so if you just Google Keto Mojo, that'll pop up. You can get the, I believe you can sign up for reoccurring strips to be sent to you. I don't do it that way because I don't test very often any longer, but I really like the ease of testing for blood ketones, and I also like the ability to test blood glucose. So if you're looking to start testing ketones, I think it's super important to remember how great it can be to also test your blood glucose. You should know if you have abnormally high blood sugar levels and kind of when you have those, and if you've got peaks and valleys throughout your day. And it really can tell you a lot about your body and how your body is functioning. So it's a very interesting way to just kind of keep track of that. And once you become keto adapted, in general, I'll just check my blood glucose every now and then for fun, just kind of want to see what it's at. And if my blood glucose is low, then I know that I'm probably producing the typical number of ketones that I normally would see, and so I don't bother going through and testing for ketones as well. So you can also kind of figure that out for yourself and learn how you like to test. The other way that you can test is for acetoacetate, and that is the ketone body. I'm sorry, for acetate. Acetoacetate is in the urine. I hope I didn't say that wrong earlier. And acetate is in the breath. So that's another way that you can test is through your breath. Now there are a couple of different ketone monitors that are out there that do breath analysis that will pick up the acetate in your breath. The one that I have used and find that works just fine is the Ketones. And so you can go online and order one of those as well. And Ketones just is pretty easy. You just blow into it. It gives you a reading, tells you if you are in ketosis or not. It just tells you if it's detecting those ketone bodies. Now, the interesting thing that I recently learned through a conference that I attended, a low carb conference, was that often so we have this, there's a lot of talk out there about the optimal levels for ketosis. So your nutritional ketosis, I'm looking at my little chart here. So your nutritional ketosis is typically between 0.5 millimole. This is a blood marker, okay? This is if you test your blood. It's 0.5 millimole to 1.4 millimole. And then what they consider to be optimal optimal ketosis as 1.5 to 3.0. So those are the general levels. However, I rarely register in the 1.5 to 3.0, which is what they call the optimal ketosis. And it doesn't really matter. I mean, my diet is pretty much the same all of the time, and I know that I am fat adapted. I know that I'm running on ketones, and I don't seem to notice a difference in the way that I feel when I'm in optimal ketosis versus just nutritional ketosis. But I often am around the 0.7 to 1 millimole is kind of where I seem to stay. And recently there's been a lot of talk about the fact that that certain people, depending on your metabolic state and just kind of how good you are at using ketones for fuel, that type of thing, that you may stay in the lower range, where there are other people that may be utilizing their ketones and their blood ketone markers may stay in a little bit higher range. And it doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It's, again, this whole bioindividuality thing. It's so bioindividual. And so your ketones could be maybe higher than mine, but we are both in a great state of ketosis and we are fat adapted and we're both utilizing those ketones effectively. So there's a lot of talk about that. And that brings me around to the breath ketone meters, is that there is a lot of talk that perhaps that might be a really good indicator, or maybe a better indicator, because often people may not be registering as high in their blood markers because they are very good at utilizing the ketones, and so you won't have as much beta hydroxybutyrate perhaps floating around in your bloodstream if you are utilizing all that BHB very effectively. So you may find it better to test for the acetate reading in your breath, because that may be a more accurate indicator for you that you are actually burning through those ketone bodies, and then the byproduct is the acetate. So a lot to think about there, a lot to kind of play with. And so I say, figure out what you like the best. I did the ketonics and the blood ketone meter as well. I've also done the urine strips just to find out what works best for me and what I like best. I do happen to prefer to do the blood testing, but again, I'm not testing very often. If I was testing often, I might not choose to be testing the blood all the time. If you are testing very often and you really want to know, see all those numbers, you might want to do ketonics. You can download an app with ketonics that will help you to come up with, it'll help you to track and give you a little chart and all that. There is another ketone meter out that I do not have experience with, but it's called the Level, Level, and I forget what their website is, but you can look that up on Google. It pops right up if you Google Level ketone meter, it'll pop right up. So do some experimenting, figure out what works best for you, what method you like. Just keep in mind how far along that you might be in the process of ketosis and test accordingly. So in other words, probably don't hold on to those urine strips more than maybe the first, I'd say month to 2 months. After that, they're probably not going to do you a whole lot of good. And you're going to want the more accurate information of the breath meter or the blood glucose meter. All right. I hope that was some good information for you. And if you have any comments or questions, leave them below. You can also visit my website, www.jessicatai.com, for more information about me and how I can help you on your keto journey. And you can also follow me on Instagram. I'm at thatketoblonde. All right, thanks.